Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episode where we talk about movies, TV, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. I needed to turn off my television. Welcome to the Media Book Podcast. As he said, it's all that and more. Today is June the 18th, 2024. This is episode 440. We did it. We made it to 440.
Yay! Only four more to the grand four episodes.
Yeah, 444.
Four,
But we'll
four.
get there in 3 more weeks. For now, let's do today's show. And because of some thoughts that we want to talk about, we're going to do a reverse order show. I knew at the top we say that the order is out of order, but hey, we get to decide what the order is.
We
So
are the host of this podcast, so we decide the order each week.
yeah, it can be
And
whatever we
we
want it
have
to
a
be.
lot of thoughts to talk about. So let's get into it with
Yes.
the movie section.
So we always start with the movies with the weekend box office numbers, and your number one movie with a whopping $154 million debut. What is happening is Inside Out 2. Okay, want to break this down here. What do you think happened? Because the story up until this weekend had been all these blockbuster movies are coming out and nobody's going to see them. The highest opening we've had in like 3 weeks was like 54, 55 million. What do you think is the thing with Inside Out that brought everybody back to the theaters?
It's a family movie. It's a known commodity. It's a
So is
sequel.
Garfield.
Yes, but it's a sequel to a beloved uh film from 2016.
Are you saying that Garfield is not beloved?
I am saying that because Garfield hates Mondays, he is automatically eliminating 1/7 of the population.
And those who are gluten-free, they can't enjoy lasagna like he can. Um,
No, but with this debut, this officially makes Inside Out to the fourth highest box office earning of this year.
yeah.
It's 50 million away from 200 million, and there's only one film that's gone over that $200 million mark, as Dune Part 2 with 282. And then there's this huge Godzilla-sized gap until you hit Godzilla Cross Kong, the New Empire at 196. It's kind of itching me that it's just like right below the 200 mark, because it's like, oh, you could get there, but also all these other movies came out, so
Yeah. I mean, regardless, yes, you're right. It's interesting that it's a family movie, so that might be one explanation. You're right. It is a sequel to a movie that also did pretty well when it originally came out. And yeah, we've kind of had a little bit of a break between theatrically released Pixar movies. The last one was Lightyear, and it underperformed. It's just, yeah, I feel like this is just further proof that there's no real predictor. There's no real guarantee these days whether something will hit or not. You can have the easiest, like the easiest pitch, which is, hey, it's a character from Toy Story, and that doesn't work. But you can have a direct sequel to Inside Out, and all of a sudden it works. I I don't know anymore. I officially like lately I feel like there's no I just don't know what's going to be successful anymore.
I mean, it's hard to say. Yeah, don't bet against Pixar because of the previous two films.
Yeah.
Luca, which was also direct to box office or direct to streaming,
Yeah.
and Lightyear, which is coming off of Toy Story, but maybe the Toy Story brand's a little oversaturated at this point.
I don't know, but don't tell Disney that because, like we talked about last week, they've got Toy Story 5 coming down the pipe really
Yep.
fast. So, yeah, we'll see. But anyway, there's the rest of the box office to talk about before
What?
we.
There's other box office to talk about?
Yes, I know. Believe it or not, other movies were out, though nobody else saw them. Yeah, we will talk about our thoughts about Inside Out 2 in a moment. But for now, let's go through the rest of this top five. Your number two movie was Bad Boys Ride or Die with another $33 million. That's at 113 domestic. Number three, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes with another $5.5 million. That's at 158. Number four, the aforementioned Garfield movie with another 4.7 million. That's at 78. And number five, rounding out your top five, is If at $3.6 million this week. That's at a 101, a cool 101. So it passed the 100 mark this week. So congratulations, Ryan Reynolds.
Just
So there you
looped right
go.
over. So congratulations. Yeah, another $100 million film
Yes.
to boast about.
In case you're wondering what to see this coming weekend, well, something for everybody here. Two very different movies. You have Kinds of Kindness, which is
The
I don't know,
Lorgos
yeah,
Interims follow-up to
to Poor
last
Things.
year's, yeah, Poor Things surprise, Oscar
Yes,
winner Poor Things, but
this,
also stars Emma Stone and
yes,
Jesse Plemons.
I was gonna say yes. This also has Emma Stone in it, which is the connection. And a host of other random stars. So yeah,
And that's probably why it's getting the wider release than it probably otherwise would have gotten.
yes. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. But Yorgos has convinced me that he can make some movies. So yeah, we'll see. Coming out of Poor Things, I'm curious at least. Next up, you have a remake of The Exorcism. Yes, yet another remake of The Exorcism.
Uh, that was The Exorcist. This is The Exorcism.
Wait, wait a minute. You're right. Wait, what is this then? What is The Exorcism if it's not The Exorcist?
This is stars everyone's favorite gladiator, Russell Crowe.
Oh, okay. That one.
That
Yeah,
gladiator, yes.
got it. I was thinking
Not
American
rest.
Gladiators. I was going down a whole nother route.
Yes, no. None of them. But yes, everyone's favorite gladiator, which they still promote, even though it's been 23, 24 years since that movie came out.
It's true.
But then again, Ridley Scott still promotes that he's the director of Alien, and you know, Steven Spielberg still says director of Jaws. So which one is really the oldest one they're hanging their hat on?
Hey, you direct those movies and you always will be the director of those movies, so they're not wrong.
Well, it's like when the Megalopolis trailer came out, director of the Godfather series, like, oh yeah, from 50, 60 years ago. Gotta
Almost.
catch yourself there.
Well, we'll get there. We'll talk about that movie in a moment.
Yes.
Speaking of, let's move into some movie news this week. And we have so much news, we rounded it up for you in the bits. So let's
The bits, the bits,
talk about
the
some
bits.
movie bits. We start with, hey, remember back when studios weren't allowed to own theater chains? That was
Yeah,
pretty nice, wasn't it?
the vertical integration.
Well, it's back. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not a rule anymore. And thus, Sony Pictures can do something such as buy Alamo Drafthouse. Under its new ownership, Alamo Drafthouse will be managed under a newly established division of Sony called Sony Pictures Experiences. So, do they favor Sony Pictures releases in Alamo Drafthouses now, or will they play fair?
I mean, to be fair, it is only 33 locations across the US,
That's true.
and Sony is a Japanese company.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have to play by American rulings?
We'll see.
International law steps in.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but Alamo Drafthouse for the past, at least the past 5 years, has been looking for someone to buy them,
Mm-hmm.
where they've been selling off their theaters, shutting them down, from going from I think just over 100 theaters nationally to a third of that at 33. So
Mm-hmm.
here we are, finally being sold.
Yeah.
Although, yes, if you really want to get technical, it's not the Alamo Drafthouse brand itself. It's the brand that's being sold because it got sold a while ago to its angel investor conglomerates, that actually like holding companies that actually hold Alamo Drafthouse, or Alamo Drafthouse
Yeah.
that actually sold it to Sony. But we're not going to get that technical here.
You don't need to know all that. That's for us to know.
Yes.
Anyway. But yeah, nonetheless, for those of you near an Alamo Drafthouse, at least that means they still get to be alive and still showing movies and still a fun place to go. So that's at least a benefit.
I think if anything, this will house so as mentioned, Sony Pictures Experiences, where before they would rent out different venues like they did in Chicago last year, I believe, when they were doing Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was coming out. They had a couple of events scheduled in Chicago to help promote the movie. They now have venues across the US to help promote the movie. So is it vertical integration? Technically, yes. The best kind of yes.
Sure, yes, according to you. Anyway, but enough about that. Congratulations, I guess? Question mark. Let's move on to the next congratulations. We have to congratulate Francis Ford Coppola because, as we mentioned, he does have the upcoming Megalopolis. And up until recently, it didn't have a distributor. It was going through the festival circuit, but no one knew who was going to put it out in theaters, if anyone was actually going to. Well, this week, the news dropped that it has a suitor. None other than Lionsgate will distribute the film, the $120 million film, with a September 27th release date. So those of you who've been waiting with bated breath to see what exactly Megalopolis is, we'll have to wait no longer in September.
Yeah, only 3 months away. Is it time for Lionsgate to promote it? And that $120 million price tag funded entirely by Francis Ford Coppola's
Yes.
wine himself.
You almost knock over your microphone. Have you been having it Coppola's wine? Is that what's going on?
Okay, it's back.
Oh. Okay, there we go. You dropped out there. You ruined everything.
Yes, my audio dropped out.
Anyway. All right. You're just so shocked by all. Next up, let's talk about the further complications of Marvel's Blade movie. Yes, they're still making a movie about
I
Blade.
believe Mahershala Ali is still attached to it, even though he's now being courted for Jurassic Park 4.
Well, that's maybe the only thing that hasn't changed because they've lost another director this time, Yann Damage, after he replaced Bassam Tariq. The movie is still set to be released on November 7th, 2025, but with a mad dash to find a new director, don't hold your breath about that date, is what I would say.
Yeah, other than that, beyond four, Fantastic Four, which is scheduled to come out next year, I don't think they have anything else like currently on docket beyond that. Actually, like in production
Right.
wise.
Yes. Because
Yeah,
obviously the Avengers stuff is further down the road.
yes. And the whole thing with Jonathan Majors is kind of like, okay, we need like a hard reset, hard rewrite. What are we gonna do now?
Well, they also have that more sooner than that. They also have the next Captain America, right?
Yes, in production as well as, and then the Thunderbolts movie.
Yeah.
So those are that, and then the Deadpool and Wolverine, which is coming out next month. So those are the
Right,
only
that's
four
done.
films that are like shot, production, edited, ready to go.
Yeah.
Nothing else after that. Everything else after that is pre-production.
Well, I'm sure they'll figure something out and get those movies finished because yeah,
Yes.
it's gonna be tight. All right. Next up, speaking of tight release windows, Jordan Peele has decided that no longer will his next film be a Christmas release, and now it'll be a 2026 release, October 23rd. So yeah.
Let me confirm that. Is that 25? I thought it was next year, 25.
You have
No,
26
no,
in
I
the
have 20.
story.
Yep. He put it on his Instagram. 10, 23, 26.
So yeah, it
So
might
yeah,
be a
what was
while.
supposed to be a Christmas release next year,
Mhm.
2025, is now a full 10 months later.
Yeah, so this puts it in the 2026 calendar year, so it's going to be a little longer to wait, and also puts it in the coveted pre-Halloween release weekend, which is maybe on purpose. So who
Yep.
knows?
We also need to know what one-word title will he choose?
Yes.
Because he
No,
can't take Halloween. That's
he's
already
gonna do two
taken.
this time just to throw us off. It's gonna be two words. Just
Oh,
wait.
like Get Out.
Oh wait, you're right. He's
Oh
done that
wait,
already.
yes.
Damn it. Three. No, no,
Nope. Wait,
no.
damn it.
Wait. Eh. All right. Next up, a little bit of video game crossover news, as you have some celebrity casting for the upcoming Until Dawn, which is currently slated for a PlayStation 5 release. Now, I'm a little confused by this. So I was under the assumption here, based on the footage that they showed, that this was going to be a straight up remake of the first Until Dawn game. However,
No.
However, it has come to my attention that they're new casting, which implies that there will be a new cast of characters, which means it's not just that first game again.
That is correct. This is the Until Dawn game, which is kind of a cinematic quick time event movie in
Yeah.
its own while you play it. You can't really have that with multiple different endings around who lives and who dies in a movie because it's a, well, less interactive experience.
Sure.
Unless you do a more interactive experience like Netflix's Bandersnatch and the other various choose your own adventure uh, movies or events or interactive films, whatever
Something like
they
that.
want to call it. Um, but they can do to make it like that. But then why not just make the full game? Again, a sequel.
Mm. So,
Yeah.
but then I have to ask, I'm pretty sure I saw the guy that Rami Malek played. So in that trailer. So is Rami Malek just not in this, or is he in this, but somebody else is, or I'm confused, is what I'm saying. Because I thought that those were the characters from the first game.
No, these are not the characters from the first game.
No,
These
these
are,
aren't. I'm saying that the
yes.
ones in the trailer were. So now I'm really confused. Anyway, regardless, I'll just read the story instead of trying to figure it out. The story is that here are the people who are being cast in Until Dawn. Whether or not this really replaced the original cast or if they support the original cast, who the hell knows? But here are the people that are going to be in it. First up, we have Ella Rubin from The Idea of You, Michael Camino from Love Victor, Ji Young Yu from Expats, and Odessa Azion from Sitting in Bars with Cake. And also, we have learned that David F. Wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
This is a film adaptation of the game.
Yes. That's why it's in the movie section.
You didn't correct me that whole time.
No, keep going.
I thought the way you phrased this, PlayStation game Until Dawn casts.
Yeah.
This is not a game, this is a movie. They're making a movie based on Until Dawn.
Yes, based on the PlayStation game Until Dawn.
You didn't say that in the story.
Is that not how it's read?
No, it's not. It says PlayStation game Until Dawn casts these
Okay, so if
people.
I add the PlayStation game.
No.
No?
The film adaptation of
Oh.
PlayStation game Until Dawn. Help me out here.
I was wondering why you're going on the Rami Malek tangent. Like, yeah, he was in the original game, but he's not in the movie. He's not cast here.
I thought you were talking about the remake of the PlayStation game that we saw at the PlayStation Showcase.
Oh, no. No, this is the actual movie.
Okay. Well, rewind the tape. These are the people I just read will be in the film adaptation, and David F. Sandberg is set to direct. There, boom, end of story. Why
Yes.
didn't you grasp?
Oh, I loved where you were going with it.
You need to write these better. All right, that's it for movie news.
Hey,
Movie news. That's it
you
for the
know, maybe
bits.
you just want to see what goes on inside my head as I
Something
write
like
these
that.
things.
Yeah, I wonder who's responsible for this. I would just want to, if there was a way that I could see the people, the emotions perhaps that were inside your head, just like you can in Inside Out 2, the aforementioned new release from Pixar. It's out, it's in theaters, it's making moolah. It is the
Yep.
sequel to, like you mentioned, the 2015, I want to say, maybe 2016, 2015
15.
original Inside Out. So we're big fans of that first movie.
Mhm.
I personally really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite of the Pixar films. I really liked the first one, and I was excited, but approached the sequel with trepidation. One, the trailer didn't look too great when it debuted a few months ago, and also it's really hard to make a sequel to something that was pretty much told its story and got out by the end. And here's Inside Out 2. So how did you feel about the sequel to such a seminal classic?
A little disappointed they didn't do a full age jump. That's just 2 years age jump
Mm,
from 11 to 13, 14-ish.
yeah.
Um, and not the 7 years like it could have been to the end of high school, like it probably could have been.
Eh.
But yeah, more so it's right in line with the hitting puberty, um, where you turn red, and you know, I feel
Yeah, they did
like
that movie already.
Pixar is treading a little bit of the same kind of storytelling here with Inside Out 2 and Turning Red being only 4 films away from each other in their canon. And there's also the introduction of 4 new emotions to it. You got anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. Uh, I mean, do you really want to count nostalgia? Because nostalgia is a fun gag in there.
Almost don't want to spoil that, but too
Yeah,
late.
too late. It's in the latest trailer I saw on TV, so I was like, "Oh, you spoiled it." Oh well. Yeah, I thought it was a fun. That's a fun gag, but yeah, it's. I think it had a tough time where you have your 5 core emotions from the previous film, and you're trying to introduce another 4 while also making sure that each now your cast of 9 emotions plus Riley is 10 gets a full like theatrical treatment, but oddly in a 90-minute runtime, which I feel is a very, very fast to get all those characters not just established or reestablished, but have full character journey arcs in what essentially amounts to 10 minutes of screen time on average. It doesn't. Some people do get some emotions do get really sidetracked and kind of pushed off to the side. But so did happen with the first Inside Out, where it felt like somewhere, even though they felt that they were pushed off to the side, they still had their own emotional journey as well. So here we are, years later, Inside Out 2. And I think it does exactly what it wants to do. But while it does that, it leaves us, the audience, wanting them to do more, push the boundaries more, or get more into further into more like these new emotions and how they truly affect Riley. Because anxiety just gets in there and for much of the movie just takes over everything. I think you have the other emotions touch the console once or maybe twice in the entire film. So it's anxiety show to basically run and ruin at times our main character Riley.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about anxiety is that that's kind of how it works in real life too.
Yeah.
Kind of likes to take over sometimes. Anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I think that it has the structure of the film does work against it sometimes because of how much it has to cover in such a short time. I do wonder what a 2 hour version of this film would have felt like with more room to breathe, with more to explore. That being said, I think that what it does with the idea of the emotional side of puberty is interesting and not the story that I don't that would have been easier to tell. I think they actually challenged themselves by focusing on something so abstract instead of focusing on something concrete. I think it's interesting to compare it with Turning Red because they're two sides of the same coin. With Turning Red, you get this very visual metaphor for, having a period, and like that part, the physical experience of somebody turning 13, 14, around that kind of transitional phase. Here, though, everything is happening in Riley's head, literally. Like, there's a reason why, like, they choose to do this is because they already have kind of the vocabulary set up by the first Inside Out. And the sacrifice you have to make there is that, yeah, you do have to introduce all these new characters in order to get this established. You need to blaze through it in the first two acts because there's too much to cover. It's almost wall-to-wall dialogue for the first hour of this film. It is wild. I kept thinking, like, wow, there's like no pause in this film, with like maybe a couple of sequences of hockey where just hockey action is happening. But beyond that, characters are just expositioning like crazy for like
Mm-hmm.
a quick clip up until Act 3 because they has so much that it needs to address. That said, though, by the time you get kind of towards the end of that journey and you get to Act 3, I thought that the setup had mostly succeeded because I thought it was a very interesting, realistic depiction of someone going through anxiety, learning what anxiety is, learning the challenges of trying to fit in a new social stratus. Because even though you kind of had a peek at that in Inside Out 1, with the fact that Riley was moving to a different school and having to make new friends, this really pushes that to its extreme. This really shows you the just the fear and the like complication that you have when you're trying to fit in and be part of the cool crowd at the same time as not wanting to lose these friends that you've made connections with. And a lot of that, especially if you're an anxious person, feels very like scary. And I think the film does a really good, realistic job of communicating those feelings to people who either can relate or maybe people who couldn't relate, maybe who people don't have that kind of pressing anxiety all the time. I thought it was pretty successful at what it needed to do. Like you said, I do think that it did what it needed to do. I do think that, yeah, with a little bit more time to breathe, it could have been even better and potentially a more interesting film if it did kind of explore some of the things. But they had a mission and they succeeded, I think, on that mark specifically, which is let's really delve into what it is like to have be an anxious kid going into high school, dealing with that social pressure. And I think it largely succeeds at it. And and I like their characters. I think they're fun for the most part.
I got a bit of like a mix of movies while watching it between the hockey movie, which love the hockey scenes. I thought it played out great. I
Yeah,
liked everything that they did with that.
yeah.
So between the hockey movie and the that they were trying to make, and then uh the inside the head journey, inside the emotional journey that they were making, where anxiety is taking over, and it's crossed over into what I felt like was a poignant jab at all the how do I put this delicately? No, not delicately. Let's just run it over. All the high achievers. Whether you're, I mean, specifically this one in sports, but also in general outside of sports too, of in feeling inadequate, not feeling good enough, and feeling that you have to be better just to fit in. Um, because I have seen and experienced a lot of that, especially with sports. Of you
Yeah.
have to be better. You have to be better than the next person. There's no friends in sports. It's all a competition, and they play directly into that. And it felt good to see that on screen. No, it felt bad. No, it felt good. Did I
You
like
felt
seeing that on
seen, is
screen?
what you're saying.
Well, yes, but also it's good to see that on screen. But also the way they portrayed it
Mhm.
on screen was very, very accurate in like I said, its portrayal.
Yeah, a lot of it is very universal. I mean, even though it's
Hmm.
about a 13-year-old girl, a lot of those themes never stop. A lot of the feeling of, oh, I'm not going to be good enough because these other people are like literally skating circles around me. Like that is a feeling that persists throughout life. And especially if you're someone dealing with, like severe anxiety, it's something that can tear you apart and can kind of like make you obsessive over something forever. I do, which segues into the one thing I do think that was a little unrealistic, which is the fact that she is able to kind of not necessarily conquer, but at least figure out a lot of these complicated feelings within 90 minutes, which is, man, I wish I could. But I get it. It's a movie. It needs to have some sort of resolution, and he doesn't want to leave you thinking, oh, Riley's just going to be like this for the rest of her life, even though if Riley was a real person, she probably will be like this for the rest of her life. But
Having a kind of like realization here. In the beginning of the movie, is Riley a narcissist?
I mean, no, and I think that the movie has to be delicate about that. And here's where I think a lot of possible where people would find some possible like detractors here. I
Yeah.
think that we've talked about this about in the music section this year a lot. You have this almost rejection I think people are having against this therapy speak kind of vibe in media lately. We talked a little bit about it when we talked about the Ariana Grande record this year, in which people are kind of tired of that kind of vibe where a movie or a song or something is basically just like spouting therapy language at you and talking about, oh, this person learned how to be better because of XYZ tool set. I think that, yeah, I think what you're touching on is I think somebody who is over that and very like sensitive to that could very easily think that, oh, the movie is making it too much of a point that Riley's supposed to be very like proud of herself and confident and like very like and think of herself as a good person instead of a more nuanced potentially look at that. But I think that the movie has to do that in order to set up the finale. Because if Riley doesn't think that she's a good person in Act One, she has no arc because the entire arc of the film is for her to have nuance introduced into that. Because if the movie just believed that that was true, the ending would be different. The ending would be, oh, she's back to square one. She realized that she's a good person and nobody can touch that. Instead, what the movie does, like spoilers for the end of Inside Out 2. But what the movie actually does is it says, actually, no, when the memories that have been reintroduced go into the core of the mind again,
Mm-hmm.
she realizes, oh, wait, no, my self-identity is more complicated than that. It's not just as simple as I am a good person, nor is it as simple as I need to be better and I'm not good enough. There's stuff in the middle of that too, which is I mess up sometimes. Sometimes I'm nervous about things. Sometimes I need help. Sometimes I need friends. Sometimes I am a good person. Sometimes I am not good enough. That is, I think, the message of the film. It's saying you're going to go through times where you're all of these things because you can be all of these things. You have to be all of these things in order to live because there's going to be ups and downs and you need to be able to kind of surf on them. You need to be able to realize what you can control and what you can't control, which is like the number one thing they talk about in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I get where you're coming from because I think it is kind of very easy to be like, is this the lesson we really want to learn? But I think it's important to remind people that that's not the lesson that the movie is saying by the end of it.
Right. I do want you to spoil the territory. Well, you did.
I mean, I
And
figured we should talk about the whole movie. It's kind of
well,
key.
yeah. I mean, because that is the key element of the ending and how they
Yeah,
kind of overconquer. I would say they conquer anxiety, but more
they
like how
don't.
they don't conquer anxiety, but they
Yeah.
learn or the emotions, and Riley learns that she is more than just the good stuff that she does. She is more than just how she's comparing herself.
Right.
That she like you mentioned, it is nuance, that she is all of the actions that she has done and all the inactions that she's done
Mhm.
to become the person that she is and who she wants to be
Yeah.
going forward, that she can choose who she wants to be. And we see that several times in the film where anxiety is in control and Riley fights against it, fights against what
Mhm.
her emotions are telling her to do.
Yeah, which goes back to what I had originally said, which is they had a choice with this film. They could have made it a more straight up, oh, how funny is it that there's a puberty button? What could happen when she hits puberty? But
Mhm.
instead, like the teaser at the first one, at the end of the first movie.
Right.
But instead, what they really thought about is what happens in a kid's mind at that age. And what they came down to was their understanding about their self gets more complicated. And that's the movie that they chose to make. And I think, yeah, it accomplished that goal pretty well. I enjoyed the film. It's not perfect and it's a little fast. It's a little, the pacing's a little off. But besides that, I think it is a pretty worthy successor to the first
Yeah, I had a good time with it. I was smiling a lot throughout it. I did like a lot of the callbacks and kind of background gags from the first film into
one.
this
Yeah.
one as well. Uh, but yeah, one thing I am kind of a little bit, I don't say miffed at, but kind of missed potential, or just because they didn't want to go there, is utilizing the vault, the buried memories, the buried emotions, um, bottled up emotions that I felt like I could have delved deeper into that, or at least brought it back for the third act, and kind of didn't.
Yeah, they treated it as basically a series of gags by the end of the
Mhm.
day, and one plot point for later. That was probably my least favorite part of the movie. And I think that, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that if they had really gone into that and made that more poignant or more important, I think it would have mattered more. But the way they treated it just felt very tossed off.
Hmm. It was kind of felt, I mean, it did feel like a little demo of them mixing different art styles in a
Yeah,
Pixar film.
which is
It's just like we're
interesting.
gonna have this one scene that we're just gonna have fun with, and it's not really gonna affect the overall movie. We just want to have a little fun corner here.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Inside Out 2. It's in theaters now.
And probably for the next 2 months.
Yeah, probably judging by its success. With that, let's move on into the next section of the show, which is television. And we always start television with the Sports Corner. And what a sports week it has been. First up, before we get to the biggest news, we have a UFL update for y'all. Your champions are the Birmingham Stallions as they trounce the Brahmas 25 to nothing for their third straight title because it counts the
The
USFL, right?
previous USFL.
Yeah.
Yep. The Stallions were also the top record in the league at 9-1. So congratulations on your 25-0 victory. We didn't have an upset like the XFL last year.
Yes, thank God. Next up in sports headlines, we have Bryson DeChambeau, who won the U.S. Open of Golf.
Yes, and narrowly beat Rory McIlroy only because Rory hit bogeys on 3 of the last 4 holes
Oof, damn.
to close out his weekend. And yeah, lost by 1 stroke. Those bogeys cost him.
I guess so, as they do. Next up in some Olympic preview news, Rafael Nadal and number 2 ranked Carlos Alcaraz will be playing doubles together at the Olympics.
Yes. The old gun in Rafael Nadal and the young gun in Carlos Alcaraz will be
Yeah.
representing Spain in the doubles tournament at the Olympics.
So that will be definitely some matches to look forward to there if you want to
Hmm.
see their team up.
I
And
can't
by the
wait to see
way,
them team up.
you can see them at the Paris Olympics, which start on July 26th. All right, let's move into some league headlines. We start with the NFL. We now know what Hard Knocks will be. Off season with the New York Giants will start July 2nd, followed by the start of Hard Knocks training camp with the Chicago Bears on August 6th. Can't wait for that. And we'll
Bears.
and we'll conclude with a unprecedented third Hard Knocks in season with the AFC North. Wait, the entire AFC North?
That's right. It's not just one team, it's all 4 teams in the AFC North.
Woo! And that will debut on December 3rd. So we've gone from Hard Knocks being a thing that only happens once per season to a thing that now has 3 iterations.
Correct.
Wow. That's crazy.
Uh, this will be the first year, the first iteration of Hard Knocks off season,
Yeah.
which will highlight the New York Giants from draft day up to the start of the off season or the preseason. Then it transitions into Hard Knocks training camp with the Bears, which is traditional Hard Knocks preseason with the number one pick in the draft, Mr. Caleb Williams himself.
Aha.
As he now gets to helm the Bears
Yeah.
team, and we get to see what type of shenanigans they get up to.
Yeah, that's a fascinating team. So who knows?
As the number one pick, there are high hopes for the Bears this year,
I guess so.
especially seeing what the rookie quarterbacks did last year,
Yeah.
but not the year before. Look at you, Bryce Young.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. And that's a lot of hard knocks to look forward to.
Yep, but we do get the in season with all four teams: the Ravens, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Deshaun Watsons. I mean, the Browns.
Right. Oh. Anyways. All right, let's move on. Next league headline is the Major League Baseball world. And if you are a Major League Baseball fan, you'll know that the All-Star Game voting is open. And currently, your big vote leaders are, of course, Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper, two of the biggest rootin' tootin'est, hittinest
Oh no.
players in the
Who
league.
could have seen that coming?
I know. Who could have seen that coming? Aaron Judge, by the way, if you want to get some stats, leads the league in the following: home runs at 26, RBIs with 64, his slugging percentage, which is 686, his walks, 57, and his total bases at 181. Oh, yeah. And he only has an OPS of 1.11. So, yeah, needless to say, Aaron Judge is the best player currently in the major leagues.
Are you saying his stats are 99?
It looks like it, yes.
Mr. Creative Player,
Somehow,
he's finally done it.
yeah, somehow he has not peaked yet, and this may be his peak. He is also helping the Yankees become the first team this season to 50 wins, which is a milestone. And on the other side of the milestone, well, the White Sox have been the first to 54 losses.
It's not the Angels. Yeah.
I know. Somehow the Angels are not the worst in the league, but yes, they're pretty damn close. But yeah, if you're a White Sox fan, you're probably not watching the games anymore. But if you're a Yankees fan, you're just eating it all up. You're just scooping it up with a ladle.
Well, don't forget, if you're a White Sox fan, you can watch the games when the new Chicago Sports Network comes out in the fall.
You'll love it. You'll love the accessibility of it. It'll be great. But yes, needless to say, the Yankees are looking good. And yeah, there have had very little in the sense of challenges coming their way this season. But we will wait to see what these upcoming trade deadline will have in store for all the teams. maybe some fates will be reversed. Only time will tell.
Ooh, when is the MLB trade deadline?
It's got to be coming up. We have the All-Star break in mere weeks.
Why is it only give me rumors before July 30th?
July 30th. So about a
Yes.
month and change for that. So watch this space. We will definitely be discussing the highs and lows of that mess when it happens at the end of July. All right, let's move on to, of course, the two biggest headlines of the week, which are we have finals happening, or for the basketball finals, the NBA finals have ended. As of last night, your big winner are the Boston Celtics, who have won their, what is it, 16th or 17th title, meaning that the Celtics are now the most winningest team in NBA history for the final championships win.
Yeah, they officially passed the Lakers.
Yes. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown was named your finals MVP. So if you weren't paying attention to that
was your 18th championship.
18th.
Record 18.
If you weren't watching that, though, you may be watching the still ongoing NHL playoffs finals, in which the Panthers are up 3-1 versus the Oilers. Game 5 will be tonight. So
Game 5 is technically happening in the next 5 minutes as puck drops right now.
Well, we gotta finish this show so you can watch it. But yes, Stanley Cup will be potentially decided tonight. But if it is not, it will go on to a game 6.
If it's anything like the NBA, it will be decided tonight because in order to do a sweep, it means you win game 4 on the opposing opponent's turf in their arena. And we don't
Yeah.
want that. We don't want to win at home. We want to celebrate with our fans. So it's okay if you lose one on the road. It's fine. You just come back and win in front of your fans because that's what counts.
Yep, it's true. All right. In other hockey news, this is fun. I'm glad you wrote this a little bit here. We know that there's going to be a Utah hockey team, but we don't know what name it will have. Well, they have run a poll now on the final 6 names to choose between. They are the Utah Blizzard, the Utah Mammoth, the Utah Yeti, the Utah Outlaws, the Utah Venom, and the Utah Hockey Club, in the proud tradition of the Washington football team. So where are you leaning here? I have my opinion, but I want to hear yours first.
So I believe it's been decided that the first year will just be Utah Hockey Club.
Okay.
But going forward after that, in order to do promotions and jerseys and all that fun stuff, do we have a name? Do we have a mascot? Do we have a team I mean, we will get a team in Utah, but what will they be called? I'm leaning towards the Yetis.
That was also my first thought, and here's why. It's cute. It gives you a built-in mascot. Not
And they're
that the
both
mammoth
4 letters.
don't, but
They're even split.
yes, and that's what I was going to say. This means that a diehard fan could get Nuck Tats.
Yes.
Utah Yeti. That would be so cool.
You stack the letters right on top of each other in big block letters, Utah
Yeah.
Yeti, and it fits.
Perfect. It's
Just
great.
pick the 4-letter word.
It's like poetry, it rhymes. They should do they should call it. They should call them the Utah Yeti. It's great. It's a perfect name. I would also accept mammoth, although mammoth is a weird plural. Like,
Am I?
yeah, like mammoth is probably plural for mammoth, but because it's probably not mammoths.
Isn't it?
I
Mammoth's
don't
Mountain?
Mammoths. No, it's just Mammoth Mountain. Blizzard just reminds me of the video game company, so I'm taking that out.
Yes.
Outlaws doesn't scream Utah to me. It's more
But
of a
it does
Texas name.
scream, yeah, but it does scream Arizona, like you said, Outlaw, which is where
Mhm.
they came from.
Yeah, but still. And then Venom just makes me think of Venom. Like,
Marvel, yes.
yeah, and so I don't want that. So yeah, Yeti is the obvious choice here.
Yep. They're doing an online poll on the Utah Hockey Club website. You can vote, you can let your voice be heard,
I'm gonna do it right now.
and you can then root for the Utah Hockey Club in its first inaugural season next year, or in
There
October,
you go.
actually. Don't have to wait a full year.
We will see. All right. Next up, we do have some follow-up news for the College World Series, in which we have our final 4 teams: Tennessee, Texas A&M, Florida, and Florida State. Their championship series will start on June 22nd, so a mere 3 days away, 4 days away.
Yes. Let's see here. Florida State won. I want to make sure that Florida won. Or no, they're playing right now. Ooh.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, Florida and University of Kentucky. Actually, that game's been postponed, so we won't know until tomorrow. But yeah, Florida versus Kentucky for that last spot.
all right.
Kentucky's technically ranked number 2, but I believe in the Gators for a Florida v Florida finals. Although it won't happen because the Volunteers are just gonna rip out everybody's hearts.
Oh, the Volunteers. Anyways.
There's a reason they're ranked number 1.
Yes, turns out. All right. Anything else in sports news before we move on to television?
Yes, in NASCAR news, Kyle Larson won the first ever race or NASCAR race in Iowa. I'm probably wait, was that no, not Kyle Larson? No, that's be racist.
Well, definitely not that guy.
Yeah. Ryan Blaney won the first
Ah,
ever NASCAR race held in Iowa this past Sunday for Father's Day weekend. So congratulations. And they are past the All-Star break, so we're in the back half of NASCAR season. but no one's been officially in the playoffs just yet. So waiting on that news as it comes.
All right. Sounds good. Let's move on into some television news. And it's about a franchise near and dear to your heart, Power Rangers. Well, it's been 2 years since Jenny Klein and Jonathan Entwistle signed on to serve as showrunners for the next E1 Power Ranger series at Netflix. Now that their contract is up, Netflix is no longer moving forward with the live action series reboot, and Power Rangers owner Hasbro Entertainment is looking to take the long running series in a new creative direction with a new partner. The most recent addition to the ongoing series was Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, which aired its last episode back on September 29th, 2023. There will not be a new Power Rangers show in the calendar year 2024, marking the first year without a new season of Power Rangers since 2010. So, what would you do if you had the power, no pun intended, to guide a new generation of Power Rangers?
So according to the leaks and rumors, what was essentially was supposed to happen is they had signed a 2-year agreement to bring a new own iteration away from the Super Sentai footage to Netflix. And according to the rumors and the leaks that were posted, tie in with a series and movie adaptation as well. Because if you remember, that Power Rangers movie was from 2017. And here we are 7 years later without a damn sequel. But
Yeah.
I love that. I kind of like that movie. It was self-serving.
You
I didn't
downgraded
love,
your opinion mid-sentence.
yes, I didn't love it to where like I wanted more of it, but it did enough to where I wanted to see where else they would take it.
Sure.
And they did nothing with it. They had all that money and dropped the ball on it, on ever making a sequel to it.
I guess so.
So here we are, and there's no official next Power Rangers. Technically, if they just wanted it to end here, 30 is a nice round number to be on the air for 30 years.
I guess.
But then you're also leaving all the next 30 years of money and toys and merchandising on the table that you
Yeah.
could be having. So yeah, Hasbro Entertainment is not going to do that. So what they
No.
should do is a soft reboot where I think they should delve more into the power grid, how it's all connected to the previous seasons, but also creating your own season series going forward. Because that's one thing that connects all the Power Ranger series is that they're able to tap into the morphing grid. That's how they're able to morph, is that they tap into this morphing grid and they morph and use the power swords and everything. That.
Well, clearly they should just hire you because you know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I'm sure I cost less than Jonathan Entwistle.
Yeah, probably. I bet you do. But somehow more than Jenny Klein because of sexism. It's confusing. Anyway.
Well, it's because Jenny Klein is going to be the showrunner, not the co-creator. And I don't want to do the
don't need to
showrunner. I
actually
just want to be the creator.
explain. It was a bad joke. You don't actually have to defend. Anyway.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. You watched some television this week that wasn't Power Rangers related, but we'll start with a familiar franchise. Tell me about Star Wars: The Acolyte.
So Star Wars: The Acolyte, the new Star Wars series that takes place 1,000 years before the first before episode 1. So for the first Star Wars movie, because you'll be confused which one I'm talking about. Before episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And it's about the rise of the Sith after a time of peace. If this sounds ever familiar, let me tell you, there's a lot about this show that sounds familiar. Because it also stars twins. It also stars young Padawans learning to be a Jedi. It also stars a mysterious figure hunting down Jedi. Yes. Does all this sound familiar? Well, it should, because they've used these exact plot lines in previous Star Wars entities across both the films and the series.
I have a feeling I know where you're going with this.
I bet you do. So, even though this is set 1,000 years in the past, it does feel like they're just recycling old material into
Yeah.
here. And the way it is shot, I
Mm.
have an issue with the production value
You don't say.
because it all looks like The Mandalorian. It
Yeah.
all looks like Kenobi. It all looks like a Disney Plus show. The more I watch these shows, the more I have a better appreciation of what Gareth Edwards did with
Mm.
Rogue One, because that was set in the Star Wars universe, but had its own very unique style. And
Mm.
that's what I want here. Is the Acolyte looks and feels at a lot of the time like generic space sci-fi with a Star Wars like logo slapped on it with a little Star
Mm.
Wars sprinkling into it. You could take the Star Wars out of this and you'd still have a really good space sci-fi story. It doesn't have to be set in Star Wars because there's nothing currently about this that's uniquely says this needs to happen in the Star Wars universe. And that to me is a big hindrance of me getting to like this show. Because at least like with the Bad Batch, it's still an offshoot of the Clone Wars, which was a big plot point of the films. Even Kenobi was about a central character in Star Wars.
Mm.
Here in the Acolyte, I think they had the potential to make something fresh and new outside of just Jedi and Sith battling because it's set 1,000 years before the main conflict in the Star Wars universe. So you do whatever you want. And they decide to focus on Jedi and Sith battling each other, hunting each other down, and
Yeah.
wanting to kill each other because that's what everyone wants.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's Star Wars. If you don't have Sith and Jedi, how do you not know it's Star Wars? It's not like we have Star Wars Tales of the Sith or Tales of the Jedi that go out, or even Star Wars Visions, which goes out and beyond just Jedi infused stories
Or
to
hell,
other
even
parts of the,
yeah.
or even like what?
I was gonna say even Andor, the one that
Yeah,
fans did like. And that's the
yeah.
thing. It's like they learned no lessons about what was like getting attention online and what just
That's because
wasn't.
Andor was an offshoot of Rogue One. It was a prequel to Rogue One,
Yeah.
which was good.
But it's just it's frustrating that we're back here again because I
Mhm.
felt like Andor was a breakthrough. I mean, you
Yeah,
had more mixed feelings about it than I think a lot of people on the internet did. At least on the show,
yeah.
you were a little conflicted by what that thing ended up being.
I was conflicted on story pacing because it
Right.
felt like it was 2 episodes. Okay, we're on the next plot. Two
Right.
episodes. Okay, we're on the next plot.
But generally speaking, Star Wars people, at least the ones that I saw online, were very positive about it and felt like it was a new kind of way to make a Star Wars show. But I feel like the reaction to The Acolyte has been the same as The Mandalorian and the same as
Mhm.
Obi-Wan and all these shows. It's just, well, it's like diminishing returns every time they try to do this again. It's just, hey, do you like Star Wars? Here's more Star Warsy stuff. And it just feels like it's spinning its wheels just forever. It's a franchise that they just don't know what to really do and they don't know how to push it forward.
I think they're stuck on the Jedi because
Mhm.
if that's a big question of what is Star Wars if you take out the Jedi? I mean, it's Rogue One. You can do a Star Wars without Jedi. It's Rogue One. You can
Yeah,
have just a single Sith in Darth Vader just show up ever so briefly and not have it be about Darth Vader.
right. And yet,
Yeah, it's a creative bankruptcy or just I see what they want to do with it, but again, to have twins, you literally Luke, Leia, twins. Look,
we
just do
did
the
this
same thing here. Just like
already.
it's Star Wars, it's binary. Why you have two sons?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
My
It's
my
just, yeah.
my negative reaction is different from other people's negative reaction on it.
But still, it does
Do
seem
not
like,
confuse this. Do not
oh,
put us in the same boat. I'm angry on a technical reason. beyond
Right.
this.
A little different, a little different.
Yes.
But anyway, um, but yeah, nonetheless, it is another one of those Star Wars series. So if that's something you still feel like you need in your life, it's there for you. But yes, just be aware that it kind of does seem to address a lot of similar thematic material that they've already covered.
Yes.
What we
Meanwhile,
Yeah,
on the opposite
meanwhile,
side of the
haven't
spectrum,
covered, yes.
this week it also saw the premiere of House of the Dragon on
Yes, it did.
Max. And these two shows, big budgeted, The Acolyte and the House of the Dragon, big shows, big tentpoles for their streaming services, could not be any more different from each other. Not just in terms of content, but in terms of stylistic choice. I like what House of the Dragon is doing. It feels cinematic. It feels
Hmm.
movie-like. It doesn't feel like a TV show. It feels like an experience and gets me excited to
Yeah.
watch more of this. Even though it's only been out for one episode and the Acolyte has three, I want to see where House of the Dragon goes because it handles more mature content, because it handles this political intrigue that the Acolyte wants to touch on, but also doesn't want to go too deep into it because this is a kid's show. Like, yes, there's people being murdered over here, but we're not going to focus on it. Meanwhile, House of the Dragon, episode one, literal murder happening on screen and just off screen. And
Yeah.
it's done with taste, it's done with technique, it's done properly to keep you invested.
Mhm.
So if I have to choose between which camp I'm going to,
Yeah. I mean, that said, though, like from what I can gather, it hasn't exactly. I mean, this season just started, but at least the first season, it was like doesn't seem like it hit the high highs that Game of Thrones did, and it's not. Is it trying to, you think, or is it going to? Is it going for something different?
so it actually took the complaints from season one, which was this was too colorful and
Okay.
muted all the tones and made it a gritty war, which is
Well,
what
that
this
sounds
second
lame. I
season
like
is.
colors.
Yes, but in season one, it was just a big setup to get to why these two houses are at war with each other. And here we get to actually have that seething war with each other.
Hmm.
And it's nice to see. And how, like, all the other houses in Westeros get pulled into it based on their allegiance. And that's what the first episode sets up. It's, hey, you remember this name or this place or this castle from Game of Thrones? Here's how they're all still connected because we're pulling in on these words and these emotions and these feelings and these
Hmm.
places that you understand. You already know. We don't have to lay the groundwork of how far it is or who rules where. We can say Castle Greyjoy, and you know who's going to be over there. You already know. Oh, that's that family because I already
Definitely.
watched Game of Thrones. Whereas the Acolyte, I feel like could do something similar and set stuff up, but because it's like it's a prequel, and if it's going to set something up, it's be like, oh, we're going to plant this here because it gets paid off in the future. The same thing though is happening here in House of the Dragon, though, because that's also a prequel. So there's going at it at two different ways, and one's working and one's not. Whereas one's working and one's not. Which way is the right way to go? All right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, enough about prestige television,
So-
because that's not what I want to talk about.
No.
I want to talk about a game show.
Of course, you always do.
Yes, I want to talk about the 1% Club. Uh,
Okay.
Technically, it's on. It said it got a Fox premiere, but I found this on Amazon. It's a 1 versus 100 situation where you have 100 people, and they get asked generic um, questions. These aren't like knowledge-based questions where like, oh, either I read this book or I saw this movie or like I know like who was president in 1850. These are methodical questions based on logic and reasoning that you have to read the question and then answer how you how would you answer? Would you get it right? Would you, if you got it right, would you be in the top 90% of people who got it right? Would you be in the 50% of people who got it right? Or would you be in the 1% of people who would get this question right?
I'm going to say
And
I'd
that's
be in
what
the lowest personally, but yes, go on.
you could think that. But it kind of, what it does is tries to eliminate a lot of the memorization of knowledge and go to logic and reasoning behind it. So out of 100 people, it whittles down to there's only two people left to go head to head on a single question. Um, and they're kind of either like generic questions like, what's missing between these two pictures? To more logic base of like, Wednesday, William and Winoa went to lunch. William and Winoa didn't pay the check. Who paid the check?
I don't know.
The answer is Wednesday.
Wednesday's a person, not a day.
Exactly. That kind of logic.
I call bullshit on that.
The way it's not because Oxford comma, you list stuff.
No, we went over this last week. We're not
Yes, we
doing this
did.
again.
I'm
We're
bringing
not
it back
doing that
up.
again.
But yeah, it's logic questions like that. So it's fun. It's like, oh, you sit there, you answer your questions. Like, I don't need to be as the smartest person in the room, but I can figure out the logic puzzle they're trying to put in front of me.
And it's hosted by
Oh, you just looked this up?
a surprise Patton
Surprise!
Oswalt.
It's Patton Oswalt. I was trying to hide it to the end.
No,
Why'd you
I
have to do
remembered
that?
what this was when you started talking about it. I was like, oh, I did see an ad for this. So
Yes,
yeah.
surprise! Patton Oswalt is hosting this, which is also
Yes.
why I loved it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it helps.
Yeah,
Well,
right up my
cool.
alley. So yeah, there's 2 episodes up right now on Amazon Prime. Go have a fun time watching this and see if you are smarter than 100 people.
I am not. But I already know that. I don't need a show to tell me. But that does mean that we can finally move on into cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
You're no longer watching Power Book 4, Force on Stars as it will end after its third season. So no more Power Book. I don't know if that means they're moving on to Power Book 5. I don't know how this works.
I don't know. The power book power, it just keeps going. Like it never stops.
I was under the
The
impression
power
that
series.
Mac makes their like Apple makes chips in their company now. They don't have the Power Books anymore because that was running on IBM processor. Anyways, After Midnight also kind of renewed on CBS. I'm sorry, I'm old. I actually jumped back into watching After Midnight. I'm sold now. The pilot was not great, but now I'm watching it every night.
They've changed their episode. They changed the
Yeah.
episode format up three
Yes.
different times in this first
I
season.
think they figured it out now.
I think they finally figured it
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
It's
especially with
good.
the
It's a
opening
good
monologue jokes. I think it's good the
it's
way
a
it
good
is.
vibe now. I like what they're doing with it. Next up, Smiling Friends on Adult Swim will get a third season. The second is airing right now.
Mhm.
You just mentioned House of the Dragon's second season premiere just happened. Well, it's been renewed for a third season, so we will get more House of the Dragon.
Up to 4 seasons.
Okay.
George R. R. Martin came out and said that there's enough material to wrap up the entire House of the Dragons story within 4 seasons. So if they want to do a little
Okay.
more after that, they'll probably get it.
We'll see if they can do so. And then we do have one death. Jerry West, age 86, NBA player, coach, Laker. He's the guy in the logo, and the NBA champion back in 1972, as well as an Olympic champion in 1960, a legend here in Los Angeles. Do you want to talk more about Jerry West?
I would, but he would not like that I associate him with all the Laker stuff. Because
Yeah.
if you want to see just a little snippet of it, go watch the Laker Dynasty on HBO Max.
Mm,
Max, not HBO.
yeah, just
Uh,
Max.
yeah, just a little tidbit of like his Jerry West and Jerry Buss. Yes, two
Hmm,
Jerrys. The
yes.
struggle they had between the two,
Yeah. But yes,
accurately portrayed, I would say.
RIP, but yes, age 86, a long, fruitful life.
Yep.
let's move on outside of television, and hey, let's finally get to video games. We have burned almost an entire show, and we haven't even talked about video games yet.
That's right, because we got to talk about new releases,
We
including
do.
Elden Ring, Shadow of the Urge Tree.
I see why you did that, but yes, Elden Ring.
Yes, Shadow of the Urge Tree for everything is the DLC. If you have Elden Ring, you can play this.
Yes, you have
We
to
have to
buy
pay
it.
for it, but you
Yeah.
can buy it. We have Times and Galaxy for everything except for the PS4. But you got it,
Right.
you can play it except for the PS4. Ever After Falls for everything by release, you got it, you can play it except for the Xbox One.
Right.
We also have Five Nights at Freddy's, Help Wanted 2 for the PS5. I want to say this is the VR sequel. This is a VR game.
I think so.
We also have hashtag Blood,
Blood.
BLUD, for the PC, PS4, Xbox One, and the Switch. And lastly, Still Wakes the Deep for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X.
Yes.
Now, the reason I went through all those games super
Yes.
fast is because we had a Nintendo Direct.
So I learned from the Summer Game Stuff Fest, and I don't have literally every game that was talked about at the Direct. However, there was a lot of highlights because there was a lot of big announcements at the Direct this morning.
Yes, let's go in order of what you have here.
Yes.
Starting with a new Legend of Zelda game,
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom. But you don't play as Link, you actually play as Zelda.
Yeah, this was the biggest surprise of the show. I don't think anybody was predicting a new Legend of Zelda.
No, the biggest surprise is that it's coming out this year.
Yes, it is coming out this year. But yeah, basically, to sum it up as quickly as possible, it is a top-down Zelda, not a 3D open world like the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom series. It is in the art style that was introduced in the Link's Awakening remake on Switch that came out a couple of years ago. And yes, as you mentioned, you play as Zelda, not Link. Link has been taken away. And instead of traditional Zelda game combat, Zelda has a staff in which she can essentially copy and paste things. She gains the ability to use echoes, which is basically you take something in the game world, like a table, a crate, another enemy, even, and paste it into the world to like help you out with solving puzzles, traversing the environment, or for combat purposes. And yeah, it's a game built on that mechanic. Whereas the game progresses, you'll get more and more different kinds of echoes to solve more puzzles with. So it's a neat idea, and I think it's a really neat way to incorporate the inventive puzzle design of Breath of the Wild, put in a top-down traditional seeming Zelda game.
Yeah, as I was watching this, all I could think of was, wow, speedrunners are gonna have a lot of fun with all these echoes
yes,
and try to figure
absolutely.
things out.
Yeah, and it's cool that Zelda finally gets a video game that you play as her, the first in
There's been a lot of
long time.
rumors about Zelda getting her own game,
Yeah.
and to finally, one, not only see it, but two, goes back to the top down is really interesting take on it.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I think people are going to be annoying about the art style, but other than that, I think this is something to look forward to.
Yep. But that's not all we get this year, because we also get another Mario and Luigi game,
Yes.
Brothership. That one's
Yeah.
coming out November 7th.
Is the first new Mario and Luigi RPG in that series, because obviously we got Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG in the last 2 years. But this is the first Mario and Luigi series game in 9 years. It's of note here that we currently don't know who's developing this game. The previous developer of the Mario and Luigi games, Alpha Dream, was actually shut down. So that studio no longer exists. So it's unclear who's making a new Mario and Luigi game. However, it does seem to follow in the footsteps of those older games. It does seem to have the same battle system art style, except now in full 3D HD, and the same kind of sense of humor and vibe as those old games. So it seems great for the people who are fans of that franchise.
Yep. But it's not the only Mario Party game, Mario game we get. We get Mario Party,
yes,
Super Mario Party Jamboree coming October 17th with a couple of maps from previous Mario parties.
Yeah, some maps from previous Mario parties and a bunch of new modes that they've never done before, including a 20-player online mode. So yeah, it looks like they're taking some big swings with this one. There's one race course one where you're in cars and you're racing around a map, which is interesting. But otherwise, it's a Mario Party. You love them or you hate them. So another one of those.
There's also 100+ mini games that you can
Yes.
go on fail at. We also had Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake will be coming out in November 14th.
Yeah, Square Enix is taking their HD 2D engine that they've used for games like Octopath Traveler and the pixel remakes of the Final Fantasy games and attaching that to a fan favorite, Dragon Quest 3. They also said that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 will be coming in this art style in 2025, next year. So you will be able to play all three of those games by the end of next year.
Speaking of being remade, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, but that's coming next year.
Yeah, that's next year. That is a remake of the Wii game. Uh, you'll note that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, the Wii U game, already was remade in HD. Well, it was already HD, but it was already released for Switch. So they're going backwards here by releasing the first game in that series, even though Tropical Freeze is already on Switch. Very
Yep.
confusing.
All right. We also had coming to the Nintendo Switch Online store for
Yes.
the. I want to say these are. Actually, no. There's a multitude of these guys. We have Perfect Dark, Turok, Metroid: Zero Mission, and Link to the Past: Four Swords. That's
Yes.
all available today as of this
Yes.
recording. If you have Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass.
Right. So a couple of notes about this. These are two Nintendo 64 games and two Game Boy Advance games, which
That's
means
what it
that
was. Yeah.
this is explicitly for the expansion pack version, the one that you have to pay extra for, not the base version, which is just Game Boy, Super Nintendo, NES.
Mhm.
This is Game Boy Advance and 64. Another note here, Turok and Perfect Dark are only available in a special new app store, Nintendo Switch Online store that's for mature rated games. Because of the way Nintendo is, they're making you download a separate app for the M-rated games.
They don't want the kids to
Yeah,
accidentally download
just in case.
the M-rated game.
And then as for Link to the Past, just to be clear, so Link to the Past slash Four Swords is called that because that it is two games. It is both a remake of the Super Nintendo Zelda Link to the Past, as well as the first iteration of the Four Swords series. That will have online multiplayer. So if you want to live that life, because back in the day you didn't have Game Boy Advance link cables, then you can finally play that game.
You need a link cable to
Back
play?
in the day, you needed a link cable. Yes, I get it. But yeah, anyway.
Also, what you can get is basketball on the Switch Sports Pack
Yes,
coming in later next month, I
sometime in the
think.
summer. But
Sometime sorry,
yeah,
let's say.
a full new sport coming to Switch Sports. So yeah, if you're a big fan of basketball, you'll be able to play some hoops with your friends online or in person.
About time we had some more DLC for Switch Sports.
Yeah.
Also coming later in the wintertime, Fantasian Neo Dimensions.
Yes, this is a Square Enix RPG from the original creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi. It previously was only released on phones. This is the game that was a Apple Arcade exclusive. That exclusivity has officially run out, and now it's coming to Switch.
We also have Ace Attorney Investigations Collection coming on September the 6th.
Yes, it's a collection
As
of the Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney games specifically, some of which have never been released in the US. So these will be brand new games, several of these to people in the US.
and if you don't like the Ace Attorney collections, you may be interested in Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection
Mm-hmm.
coming sometime later this year.
Yeah, this is a collection of some fighting games as well as some brawlers, arcade, a bunch of arcade collaborations between Capcom and Marvel. The biggest news here, though, is the re-release of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a fan favorite and a game that
Mhm.
has been locked in IP jail for probably 2 decades almost. So it's cool to see this game being re-released. They must have made some sort of deal with Disney to make this happen, and people are happy that they did.
Online leaderboards and online tournaments as well.
Yes, so people are happy that they can be taken on a ride again.
And that was it because they said
No,
goodbye. But wait,
no,
we'll leave you with one more
one
thing.
more thing.
Metroid Prime 4,
It's real.
colon, Beyond
Yes, it's real. It has a
for the
subtitle.
2025.
And yes, it does have a release date, sort of next year. So yeah, it looks like a Metroid Prime game. I liked for the most part what I saw, though it was pretty brief and didn't really go into depth about what this game is. Beyond the fact that a villain from one of the Metroid Prime spin-offs is apparently in this game, and maybe the big bad, which is kind of wild. And it's like I, I don't know. I just don't. I get weird vibes about what they're doing here. But the real question that still isn't solved by this is it just a Switch game, or is there going to be a co-release, amped up version for the Switch successor? The timeline
Oh,
matches
because it's
up.
next year. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a launch game for all we know. Jury's still out on that though. We don't know for sure, but at least now we know the game is still happening.
They do co-launch it with it. Give me a Metroid Prime uh colored console, and that will sell like hotcakes.
Whatever that console looks like.
Yes, all purple and green.
Yeah. But yeah, that
All
was the
right.
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah. Overall, I think a good direct. I liked a lot of stuff that they showed off. Actually got me interested in maybe buying some of these games.
Yeah.
The Mario and Luigi Brotherhoods and the uh
Yeah.
Link game,
Or
Zelda game.
Zelda. Link's not even in that game.
I know.
Although I will say I'm biased here, but I say play Paper Mario before you play
I know you're biased.
Mario and Luigi.
All right, get your bias out of here. Did you play anything?
I'll just really be brief on this because we don't have time. But Fortnite Festival just introduced a new mode called Battle Mode, and it re-invites some of the Battle Royale elements back into the music game. So you go, like, I think it's like 25 players, the number might be wrong, that you start and then you play songs, and then there's cutoff of eliminations depending on your score. So at first it's the top 15, then it's the top 6, and then the final round is you have to be number 1 to win. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. The only thing is you don't choose the songs; they're chosen, I'm guessing, randomly. And it seems like they're specifically songs that are currently featured in the featured songs lineup. So you are kind of playing the same songs over and over again.
Hmm.
But as a mode, I think it's interesting, and it offers another option for people who just don't want to just play for playing sake and want to have some stakes. So it's
Is
cool.
it score only, or can you use like weapons and battles,
So it's funny
like
that you say
knock
that.
in that stuff?
It's funny that you say that because they did introduce an attack function. Think kind of like junk blocks in Tetris, where
Yeah.
every time you go into overdrive, you can shoot a disruption beam, I guess, at another player, and it briefly, kind of like the ink power up in Mario Kart, it briefly
Mhm.
covers up part of your fret, and so that you can't see, you potentially, it's actually very easy to avoid, but you can't,
Mhm.
for people who are not me, it may be hard to see the notes for a few seconds. So it does, and it moves your multiplayer back down to 2 times. So if you had full multiplayer for a brief moment, you don't, which does affect your score. So
Yeah.
yes, there's a little bit of attacking, a little bit of action happening during gameplay.
All right.
It's neat. It's a
Sounds
neat
like
mode.
fun if I had it.
Right.
All
Well, the good
right.
news is that anybody can play Fortnite Festival. You don't have to have a guitar. You can play any other instrument with a controller. I just don't recommend it because it's not as fun.
Yeah, I would also have to download Fortnite to do it, but I don't do that.
You can do that.
I could.
Nothing is stopping you. It's on Switch.
I'm stopping myself. All right, that's speaking of stopping myself. I'm not going to
Yes.
continue talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth
Yeah.
because I've realized I've been playing that game wrong because I did not go back in and restat myself out. And yeah, those last battles could have been a lot easier if I had gone and done that. But you
Turns
know,
out.
what are you gonna do? Bang my head against a wall of trying to beat the boss 500 times. All right, enough about my pain. Let's talk about someone else's pain in music. As we
Yes.
get right into the last section here, speeding away into the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And at number one, man, I wish I had some help because I had some help by Post Malone featuring Morgan Wallen. It's once again your number one song.
Yep.
Coming in at two is Sabrina Carpenter, but not that Sabrina Carpenter. This one is Please, Please, Please.
It's the new single.
Yep. Meanwhile, the old single, Espresso, is still down at number three.
Oh, you mean Song of the Summer 2024?
Yeah, still up at number three. As for number four, we have a bar song, Tipsy, by Shabuzi. And rounding out your top $5 million Baby, not by Clint Eastwood. This one is Tommy Richmond.
Yes.
As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, still at number one is TTPD by Taylor Swift. Coming in at two is once again Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. That does mean that debuting at number three is Brat by Charlie XCX. If you want to hear our thoughts on it, tune into last week's episode. But that does mean that even though we did get a new song into the top five, at number four, One Thing at a Time by Morgan Wallen just sticks around here. But coming at number five, also debuting at number five, Forever by Bon Jovi.
Yep.
Or as known in some circles, John Bovey.
John Bovey. Anyway.
If you didn't like any of those albums, we have new releases, starting with The Secret of Us by Gracie Abrams.
Yes.
I want to say it is that
yes.
America's
Daughter
Got
of
Talent.
JJ.
Is that daughter of JJ Abrams?
Yes.
I thought this was America's Got Talent, Gracie Abrams.
The very same.
Oh, it's the same person. Oh.
Yes.
They can't be the same person, apparently.
Turns out.
We also have What Occurs by Islands, 9 Sad Symphonies by Kate Nash.
It's a lot.
Crash, not the movie, the album by Kalani. Good Together by Lake Street Drive, no relation. This Wasn't Meant for You Anyway by Lola Young. And lastly, Stung! Exclamation point by Pond.
Yep.
All right, let's get into the last bit of news that we have for the day here, and we're going to crash right into it because that's what Justin Timberlake did to the breathalyzer.
This happened this morning. By the
Oh,
way.
yeah, it did. That's right. Father of the Year, Justin Timberlake, was arrested early Tuesday morning in Sag Harbor on New York's Long Island. The singer, actor, slasher, who's 43, by the way, was arraigned on Tuesday morning and released without bail after being charged with 1 count of driving while intoxicated. Quote, the charge was a single count because he refused the breath test, his lawyer, Ed Burke, told Us Weekly. Quote, Mr. Timberlake was also charged with 2 other court citations, running a stop sign and not traveling in the correct traffic lane. Close quote. Burke and multiple reps for Timberlake did not immediately respond to Variety's request for further comment.
A couple of other notes about this is Timberlake claims he only had 1 drink. However, later in the report, they found traces of not just alcohol, but Molly, cocaine, and who knows what else. So yeah, it looks like he may have been having quite a night when this happened.
I mean, this 43-year-old dad just happened to be out driving at 3 in the morning in Long
Hmm.
Island
Hmm.
with a drink supposedly in his system,
Yeah,
just
among other
casually
things.
mixed with among other things.
Yeah. Um, I can't say it any better than what Christy said this morning, which is, "Hey, he said it himself. What goes around come back around." I was like, "Yeah, that's right. He did say that."
Well, see, I thought she was saying that this is just him trying to bring sexy back, and it's not. It's not
No,
sexy.
it's not sexy. No. Yeah, Justin, what are you doing? Is the question. I think maybe some of this criticism is getting to his head.
Yeah,
I'm not
maybe
taking
he
it.
should have stayed at home and listened to an album, a
Yeah, like
country
what?
album, a good album about dealing with fathers and sons,
Okay.
because he is both a father and a son.
Well, tell me about it.
I'll be real brief because we are dangerously running over time here.
About six
Father
minutes.
and Sons is the new album by Luke Combs, his fifth studio album, following his double album of Growing Up and Getting Old,
Yep.
which was released both in 2022 and 2023. Yes, that does mean he's put out 3 albums in 3 years, for those of you keeping track out there.
Yeah.
So, Fathers and Sons is a complete album of nothing but songs about being a father to a son looking up to his father, and a
Hmm.
father who has a son that also has a father. And I like the cohesion of this album. I know I've said on this podcast before that I don't get Luke Combs. I don't understand him. He's probably boring. He's just a single hit wonder. But then something like this comes out where he's just going to put his whole heart, his whole entity, his whole full force behind a single concept and a single theme of fathers and fatherhood and being there for your kid. And maybe just being live my life and just, having someone awesome in your life that you can reflect this back onto,
Aw.
that it hits something in me.
Uh-huh. It's made for you now.
I
This is
may
you're the
have shed
demographic
some
now.
tears listening to this thing.
You've graduated into that demographic
I,
now. You're a
I
dad.
I may have forced my family to listen to this in the car after being asked, "Hey, it's Father's Day. What do you want to listen to?" And
Oh
before
boy.
you can even finish the question, just automatically answer fathers and sons, fathers and sons. Hold on, fathers and sons.
So does this turn you on Luke Combs? Are you a Luke Combs fan now?
Oh, I'm not going back to his discography. I'll
Oh
listen
no.
to this album same time every year, uh, for like the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Aw. 18.
Possibly. I don't put a soft number on it because do you really put a hard number on fatherhood? Do you? Do
No.
you? Because you're still a father when your kid's 30 something, right?
Hey, don't
You
ask
still have to
me.
be a good father when
Don't
you're
ask me.
30 something, right?
I have no idea. I'm not in this demographic. This is all you.
No, I'm just saying that like when your kid turns 30, should you still have that fatherly instinct in you? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of what also goes into this album
Hmm.
about like seeing your own dad get old, seeing that he's like, oh, he's no longer the Superman that you thought he was, but he's still your dad. And it just, as much as album goes, that the last song, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, kills me a little bit because it's about a dad who, mom and dad who are fighting and dad doesn't live there anymore. So the kid's singing like, Dad, my birthday's coming up. Can we go out, take me out to the ball game? I don't
Aw.
understand why we're here. I don't understand this every other weekend,
Right.
but can we go out to the ball game? I promise I'll be good. And it's heart wrenching.
Oh
The whole
boy.
album's just stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, I loved it. Might appear on my end of my year list just because I
Maybe.
love it when an artist sticks to a theme, commits to it for a full album
Mhm.
and gives me 40 minutes of nothing but that and wholeheartedly just commits to it.
All right, fair
Probably
enough.
why
So
Rat may also appear because she wholeheartedly commits to the DJ act.
yeah, yeah. Well, there you go.
But yeah,
Well, exciting.
Luke Combs, Fathers and Sons.
2 thumbs
It
up
may
from
be past
you.
Father's Day, but give it a good listen if you're
Wow,
in that zone.
I did not
Also,
see that
bring some
coming.
tears.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. So there you go.
Yeah, I
All
didn't
right.
either.
Well, with that, we end on a happy note then as we wrap up this show for this
I know.
week.
Yeah, for those of you on the audio podcast, these are happy tears I am shedding.
Aw. Also, happy Father's Day. I didn't get to tell you on Sunday. And
Yeah, well,
along
yeah,
with
I'm
all
not
the
your daddy.
fathers, ha ha ha. And along with all the fathers that just enjoy a good weekend, or that's not your thing. If that's not something you want to do, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Regardless, we hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we hope this weekend is great as well as you anticipate a new episode of the Media Boat Podcast. If you want to see episodes of the Media Boat Podcast with our faces in them, you can visit our YouTube channel. Search YouTube for Media Boat Podcast. If you just want to hear us in your ear holes, you can do that too. We don't judge. You can find us on podcast services all over the place, like Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, among many, many others. Just search Media Boat. You can also find us on social media, Media Boat Podcast. Just search that in any of your social media platforms of choice. You can see us occasionally streaming video games, like the forthcoming streams that you said you might do of Hi-Fi Rush. That will be on twitch.tv/MediaBoat. You can also find us in email form if you want to ask us questions, comments, feedback about the show. MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com is that email address. Oh, yeah, and MediaBoatPodcast.com. You can find us there. All right, that'll do it. We'll be back next week for another episode. See you then.
Yep, we'll be back with more news, more thoughts, and more of us.
All right.
Okay, bye.